Hello everybody, welcome back to another Rhino tutorial. My name is Henry and I am one of your ISAs for the year. So today we're going to be working through and looking at the template file that you guys all should have been provided. Um, so when you open the file, it should look fairly similar to this. It may look a little different just because I've gone ahead and customized my workspace over time. But we'll just sort of run through everything really quickly. For starters, we have our layers over here. We have our properties panel here, which will start to show us. So if I click on this curve, it'll tell me what type of object I'm dealing with. It will tell me the layer I'm on, and then it will tell me all of the display color, line type, print color, print width. Those are all set to by layer. Majority of the time, I'd say 95% of the time, that's how it stays. So you control all of these parameters through the actual layer. As we move up, we have our different toolbars here. You can click on them and see different curves and stuff. As you saw in the previous video, the best way to navigate through Rhino is via the command line. If for whatever reason your properties panel is not showing up, you simply go up to the top bar here. You select panels, you'll see a big drop down come, and you will see all of the possible panels that you can add to your Rhino document. Okay, so getting started with the layers we have here, we have all of our line weights, so from darkest to dark, medium, light, lightest, and hidden. Bounding box, margins, and the title block I would consider a little bit different than your typical drafting line weights. As you can see, two of which are a no print, and the title block we will talk about a little bit later. So just quickly talking through this, we have our layer names. If you double click the layer, you can change the name. Whenever you click on a layer, you will see that it's highlighted in blue. However, that does not mean you are on that layer. This little check mark here, that is what denotes our current layer. So for example, I'm going to click on the medium line weight here. You can see the check is still on the darkest line weight. And if I type line and I draw a line, it comes out purple because that is our selected layer, not the highlighted layer. So go ahead and delete that. As we move across, we have these little light bulbs here, which will start to become important when you are drafting and dealing with a lot of lines, especially as you start to diagram your objects. So let's do a little polyline here. Nice little shape. Let's go to dark. We'll do another one. Little geodes or something. And then finally, medium. Okay, so we have three different objects on three different layers. If I only want to see the medium, you click the light bulb to turn them off. You want them to come back, click the light bulb again. Pretty intuitive, pretty simple. As we move right again, we're starting to deal with the locked and unlocked toggle button, which starts to become very helpful when you're dealing with a lot of lines and you're trying to select lines or you're trying to trim lines, but not other ones. So for this instance here, let's go ahead and trim the red curve with the blue curve, but we don't want to touch the purple curve. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our darkest line. We're going to select the lock button. So now, as you can see, the purple shape is no longer selectable. And this even occurs when we start to do operations. So I'm going to select my medium curve. I'm going to type the trim command, and I am going to highlight both the purple and red line, And as you can see, only the red line is trimmed. That's because the purple line is locked. Again, pretty simple, but very useful. Move right one more time. Starting to deal with our display colors. Rhino separates display color and print color. So we have display color here, which is what you'll see in the model. And then we have our print color, which for this template, all of them are already black. But if you were to create a new layer, so layer 01, just call it test layer, you'll see the default colors are black. If I want to change the display color to be something more fun, let's just do pink. You'll see that it also changes the print color. So just something to be cognizant about. But go ahead and we'll delete that layer for now. Moving across again, we have the materials column. This for right now, we are going to completely avoid. This deals with when you're starting to render and you have 3D geometries and you're applying materials to those. So it doesn't apply to us right now. Next, we have line type. And this is, again, pretty self-explanatory. If I want to change this red line here to a dashed line, I'm going to go ahead and I'm in the dark layer. I'm going to select the line type. You're going to get a little pop-up and you'll see all the different lines that you have. So you can press OK and you'll see it creates a dash. For now, we want it to be, oh, wrong layer. Want it to be continuous. So change it back. Print color, I briefly talked about that, but that is when you print, that is the color your lines will be. And finally, print width. You can see we have a hierarchy of line weights that go all the way from 0.5 down the hairline. In the next video, we'll talk a bit more in depth about these and how this operates when you print. But just know when you start drafting, you have your darkest lines, dark, medium, light, lightest. And yeah, that's kind of how they're categorized. Okay, so go ahead and delete these objects. So now we're sort of acquainted with the basic layout of it, and hopefully you've started to draft in your object. I'm going to do a little movie magic here and type the show command, and boom, there's my object that I had drafted. For right now, I'm leaving this all as one line weight. Your drawing should have more than one line weight, but I'm going to talk about that a bit more in the next video. So you can see that I've dragged it into this bounding box here. So we can see, click on that. This is the bounding box. If we were to measure this out, we're going to type distance from end to end is 17 inches. From top to bottom is it's 11 inches. And this is your paper size. So Rhino can get, how do I say this? It can become a lot. The model space is quite expansive and seemingly ever expanding. So that's why it is important to kind of have a bounding box that we work within. Another feature that you may have noticed is if I go back into my options, slide this over here, we'll see this grid option here, and this sort of deals with your workspace. I go ahead and turn the grid lines off, as they most of the time are not very pertinent to drafting, but something I do leave on is the grid axes, and this is your 0 point in the Rhino verse, the Rhino world. So as you saw before, and I'll do it again, you can zoom out forever, and now we're lost. I have no idea where anything is. You could see our XY coordinates over here are some ungodly number. So how do I get back? I'm going to type the command ZE spacebar, and we're back. That is a very important command learn it and love it, because that will bring you back to your drawing. So now that we're back here, we have our bounding box that's 11 by 17, and then we have these white lines on the interior. And you may be curious, what are those white lines? Well, those are our margins, and they correlate to our layouts that we have set up. So right now we are in our model space. We have all our geometries in here. But if we go down to the bottom where we see our views, we see 11 by 17 landscape and 11 by 17 portrait. We click 11 by 17 landscape and we are brought into the layout space. So we have two spaces. We have layout space, we have model space. Think of the layout space as a window into your model space. So this here is your paper on the screen, kind of digitized. When you print out your 11 by 17s with your objects on it, it will be exactly this with the drawings in the model space. So within the layout space, there's still the same functions. We have our layers. Something a bit different is that there are separate, you can change the line weights between layout space and model space. I usually create another layer that I deal with all of my layout space kind of annotations and text in. Just makes it easier than trying to go through and fiddle with line weights between model space and layout space. So keep it easy. I work in the title block line weight for this. Once again, if you click the text and you go up to your properties, we can see that it lives in the title block. To edit the text, click it, and again, in the properties, you can go ahead and, yeah, very cool. All right, and we're just gonna escape out of that. But go in and fill this in with your studio instructor, first name, last name, etc., etc. Pretty simple. So more about the layouts and kind of how these operate is we have a detail view, and it's this rectangle here that is sort of dictating what we see in the model. So I'm going to do a little demonstration here. If I pull all this over to here, now we'll see that half of the water bottle is cut off. That's because this quote window into the space is now half the size it was. So I'll just go Control Z and it's back to its normal size. Another thing that you'll notice is when I click on the detail view here, you'll see a scale value and a detail view locked toggle here. Keeping this locked is very, very important. This sort of dictates your scale that is set. So it dictates your scale that is set, and it's also framed on our bounding box and margins on the outside of our image. So go back to 11 by 17's landscape, and I am going to do the thing I said not to do and unclick locked, just to give a bit of an example as to how this works. For your purposes, you don't need to touch the scale. It is set for what you need to 1 inch equals 1 inch. But say you were working on making an architectural plan or some other drawing and you need to scale it down, this is how you do it. So just for demonstration, 1 inch on the page equals 2 inches in the model, and you see we zoom out and you can see that bounding box. But we'll go back to 1:1 and we're zoomed right back in, so leave it locked, just makes it easier. Also, when it is locked, if I double click on the inside, I am now able to kind of work through that window. So previously, double click on the outside, we're just kind of looking through the window. We can't touch anything, we can't select anything. But if we double click and we enter into the window, now we can directly edit it. So say you're ready to print and you're like, oh shoot, I don't have a line or whatever it may be. Come in, edit what you need to do, double click out, and you're off to the races. And that, I believe, should be it. Sort of a brief overview and introduction into the layout space and the model space. I think main takeaways is you want to work and operate and compose everything in the model space that doesn't have the text, so that when you go to the layout space, you can quickly print it off. There's two layouts set up. There's a landscape and a portrait. Portrait, again, operates the same way. Let me just do, I'm going to select this. I'm going to group this all together. And then I am going to type the command copy, and we're just going to drag it over to here. All right, and kind of a neat little trick that I like to do. So when you select your object, you'll see the gumball will come from the center of the whole geometry. And if you just wanted to center your object within the center of the box, what you can do is you'll go down, turn on your center snap, click the object, and drag the object from the gumball to one of the edges of a closed curve, and it'll snap to the center. So go back to portrait, and you'll see it hangs out there. Same thing as the landscape. If you click it, you see the box, double click it, you're inside, double click out, you're out of it. If you were ever to add another layout, just select the plus, hit new layout, select the name, select your size. I usually don't touch the printer because it'll do its own pop-up. We'll talk about that next video. So once again, I'll just do test. And you'll see I have my bounding box. And I can click inside my model space. I can move around and frame what I want. So let's just say it's that. But yeah, that is the introduction to the layouts and your template. Have fun drafting in Rhino.